What do you think of when you hear the term figures of speech? Probably you think of metaphors, similes, or maybe idioms. I like to think of these as the salt and pepper that spice up words. But as you know, sometimes, even with salt and pepper, food still tastes bland. We need a wider array of spices. Different combinations make the food taste different, and at times, radically different. Today I'd like to talk about the slightly more uncommon figures of speech: anaphora, antithesis, chiasmus, metonymy, and synecdoche. I like to think of these as the paprika, cardamom, and saffron of language. These figures of speech convey meanings in a more vivid and impressive manner, both in writing and in speaking. My first tip is to try to use these in different combinations to add depth and emotion to your writing. So let's start with anaphora. Anaphora means starting two or more sentences, phrases, or verses with the same word or words. Anaphora means your words will sound repetitive, but don't let that stop you from using it. That's the point of anaphora. That's why it's convincing. That's why it's effective. That's why it's powerful. Justin Bieber fans and their parents know that hit song Never Say Never. It's one of those tunes that you can't get out of your head. Blame anaphora for that. I never thought I could walk through fire. I never thought I could take a burn. I never had the strength to take it higher until I reached the point of no return. Because anaphora is so memorable, advertisers frequently create slogans using this rhetorical tool. In fact, when I was writing this episode, I heard a Wendy's commercial that included the phrase, right price, right size menu. Another advertising example I noticed recently is, choose Sony, choose wisely. In anaphora, the repeated word joins the phrases together. In this case, with the goal of leaving the impression Sony equals a wise choice. It's simple, it's clever, it's powerful. By the way, did you notice that both ads also used another figure of speech? That's right, alliteration, the repeat of the S sound. What's important to remember is that anaphora is repetitive. What's important to remember is that the repetition is what makes it effective and memorable. Antithesis uses two contrasting ideas, words, or phrases together to balance each other out. Again, advertisers use antithesis and other figurative language because they can efficiently express ideas and they're memorable. Do you remember the old Mounds and Almond Joy commercial jingle? Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Almond Joy's got nuts, Mounds don't. This famous jingle, written by Leon Carr, by the way, uses just 15 words and antithesis as the rhetorical tool. This ad very cleverly and most importantly memorably highlights the difference in the candy. A few more examples of antithesis that you've probably heard and remember. Many are called, but few are chosen. Of course, that's from Matthew in the Bible. To err is human, to forgive divine. Alexander Pope. But perhaps the most famous example of antithesis? That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. Said by Neil Armstrong, the first astronaut to walk on the moon. By the way, most people know this quotation as one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, but Neil Armstrong says he was misquoted and that he actually said one small step for a man. Let's move on to chiasmus. When Squiggly says to Aardvark, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, he's using a special type of antithesis called chiasmus. It puts parallel phrases in reverse order to make a point. I prefer to refer to this one as crisscross applesauce. Can you tell I have young children? My favorite example of this is another classic advertising jingle. I am stuck on Band-Aid brand 'cause Band-Aid stuck on me. From an advertising point of view, we repeat what we remember and remember what we repeat. Using chiasmus can be fun. Here's one that made me chuckle. It was old Granddad that really made Granddad old. Or they can be thought-provoking. Many youthful men long for fame, and many famous men long for youth. Both of those were written by Dennis Rudley, who was dubbed the master of chiasmus. I included a link to see more of his chiastic wordplay. Next, we have metonymy. Metonymy is a figure of speech where a word or a phrase is replaced with a similar word that represents it. In many cases, the metonym is more commonly used than the actual term. For example, recently Squiggly asked Aardvark, "When Hollywood knows my name, do you think I'll still be able to eat chocolate?" Aardvark read online that Katy Perry said, "Hollywood is so fake and people need to realize that people are just people." In these cases, when Katy and Squiggly use the word Hollywood, they're referring to professional actors or celebrities, not the town of Hollywood. And we know that because that's how the words are commonly used. It's like when we call the news media the press, when we refer to the U.S. president and the staff as the White House, or we refer to Wall Street, Broadway, or the Pentagon. We're using common metonyms. Finally, the last one we'll cover is synecdoche, which is a specific type of metonymy that uses a part to represent the whole. You'll find that body parts are often used to represent a person. For example, the idiom all hands on deck means that we need as many people as possible to help out. The term butts in seats can mean the number of people at an event or the number of employees at a company. But it could be any part representing a whole. For example, we refer to a new car as a new set of wheels. Another way we use synecdoche is when we refer to a brand name in place of the product. For example, many of us ask for a Kleenex when what we want is a tissue, or we offer Band-Aids when someone needs a bandage. So now that you're more familiar with these less common figures of speech, it's time to start playing with them so you can add depth and color to your writing or speaking. If you'd like to learn how to create and use some of these in your speeches, I invite you to listen to this week's public speaker episode, which is part 2 of this short series. Once you've tried cardamom, cumin, and saffron, you'll never be satisfied with just salt and pepper. This is Lisa B. Marshall, the public speaker, in This Week for Grammar Girl. Passionate about communication, your success is my business.
Thanks to Lisa B. Marshall for stepping in this week. Check out her podcast, The Public Speaker, and especially her new book, Smart Talk. It's a comprehensive set of tools to build strong relationships and avoid communication breakdowns. It's no ordinary book. It's a Swiss Army knife of communications for personal and professional success. Thanks also to Audible.com for sponsoring the podcast. Last week, I started listening to The World Until Yesterday by Jared Diamond, and I was hooked from the prologue. He talks about the people of Papua New Guinea and how they were using stone tools and didn't have writing or a central government when they were discovered by Europeans in the 1930s, and how they've made all the transitions to the modern world in just the last 80 years or so. It is fascinating. I listen as I'm going to sleep every night, and I can't wait to go to bed to hear more right now. And that's just one of the joys of listening to audiobooks. You can have someone read you to sleep, or you can have someone read to you while you're jogging or doing the dishes. Give it a try free and get a free book to keep, like The World Until Yesterday, by visiting audiblepodcast.com/GG. That's audiblepodcast.com/GG. I'm Mignon Fogarty. Thanks for listening.